Hey, hello everybody. Today we are going to be talking about the advertising chapter, and we're actually in my office instead of my basement. Woo! So I have a love-hate relationship with advertising. Honestly, most of the media that we consume and enjoy wouldn't exist without advertising because that makes the media that we enjoy possible. And yet it's annoying. It interrupts our flow. It can be repetitive. And yet at the same time, it's put together by very, very, very clever, talented people who can pull us in a matter of seconds. Because remember, the most important commodity that we can offer is our attention. So if a commercial manages to keep our attention, that's usually a very, very big deal. And advertising has changed so much through the years. So we're going to cover what your book considers to be important about advertising. Okay, so the most important thing about advertising to remember is that it absolutely does work on us. It does. 80% of Americans think that advertising influences society, but only 12% admit that it influences them personally. So there's this disconnect, right, where we think that it influences everybody else, but we don't acknowledge how it influences us. And that's kind of the first step when we're studying advertising, is to acknowledge the role that it plays and how we feel about ourselves and the things that we might want to buy. So what's interesting is that if I put this on the screen, you could probably guess or know 90% of these candies. These are all just candies. And in fact, in many cases, just from the colors alone, you can tell what the candies are. We are inundated with branding and advertising almost constantly. I think the most recent research says we see 5,000 ads a day. So of course we're inundated, right? The first American ad agencies were actually space brokers. What that meant is that they bought a huge amount of space in newspapers. And remember, if you buy something in bulk, it's usually cheaper. So they would buy a huge amount of space in newspapers and then turn around and sell the smaller spaces to merchants to sell their products. So what makes a brand? Well, the first popular brands in America were the ones that decided to start with small packaging. Because if you're going west to the frontier, you don't need a whole barrel of soap. You just need a little bit, right? So Ivory is one of the oldest brands, so is Campbell's, and of course so is Levi, at least here in America. Do we have brand addictions? Oh, you betcha. You can see two examples of my brand addiction behind me. I'm a Star Wars person. Also, my number one brand addiction, Diet Coke. And I know diet soda is diet soda is diet soda, but there's something about Diet Coke that I just love. It's irrational, but many of us have irrational brand addictions, and we'll talk about that in class. These are the top brands in the United States right now, and many of these companies didn't even exist 30 years ago. When I was in college, the number one brand in the world was General Motors. Yeah. Now, something big happened in the media industry, or magazines for that matter, in the 1880s. And this is kind of subtle, so I want you to really concentrate until you get it. This is when magazines and media in general discovered that their purpose really was not to deliver content to their viewers, but to deliver their viewers to their advertisers. Okay, there's a subtle shift there. And so what that means is that media are now created specifically to deliver certain audiences to advertisers. The most valuable audience is the 18 to 34 demographic. Why? Because you might think, well, it's the old people that have all the money. Why is the 18 to 34 demographic so valuable? It's because that age group is still willing to try new products. That's what it boils down to. My dad is 94. He's never, ever going to change his coffee brand. Ever. Right? As you get older, you get stuck, not stuck, but you become more of a creature of habit as you get older. So products are much more interested in the 18 to 34 age group because they have a better chance of getting purchased. So because advertisers are much more interested in that age group, then 90% of media is targeted towards that age group. Think about the media that are actually created specifically for senior citizens. I can't think of any. Why would anybody want to create media for senior citizens? Advertisers aren't interested in them. They don't buy anything new. Okay? There's a subtle shift there that happened. I want to make sure you be aware of it. So we're going to summarize advertising in 30 seconds here. Please don't tell Professor Barry Smith. Okay. How does it work? Number one, you find your target. You do that with the demographics. Remember, demographics are the statistics that define you as a consumer. Age, gender, nationality, race, zip code, income, education level, marital status, whether or not you have kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You find out who your target is, and then you find their weakness. They're psychographics. So there's a difference between demographics and psychographics. Demographics are the statistics. Psychographics is what makes you tick. Now, the psychographics of a 7th grade girl, much different than the psychographics of this 52-year-old girl, because our demographics are different, right? What makes a 7th grade girl, what makes a 7th grade girl tick is completely different than what makes this 52-year-old girl tick, okay? So you want to use the correct appeal for your target. And appeal is just a word for a feeling. Really what you want to remember is that advertisers don't sell products. They sell feelings associated with the product. Okay? That's important. Let's say it again. Advertisements don't sell products. They sell feelings. Okay? So let me show you what I mean. Here's an ad, right? And this is kind of old, and they're not wearing seatbelts. They're having fun, right? So this ad is attaching fun to a product that's really associated with drudgery, because shaving is a pain. Okay? So it's not selling a razor, it's selling fun. How do you sell something to stressed out people? You promise them relaxation. Okay? And that's a really, really common advertising technique for the tobacco industry, is take a break, right? Help escape. You want to find your target. You want to find their weakness. So new mothers, for example, are terrified of everything. Trust me. So here's an ad from Playtex. It says, your breast is soft. Shouldn't your baby's bottle be? So what this is saying is it's selling you absolution for not nursing. Okay, you're like, oh, you're not going to nurse? Okay, well, this bottle is the next best thing. So this will make you feel better, less guilty. Okay, see how it works? How do you sell something to powerless poor people? You give them power. So here's a girl that's, she's a maid clearly by her outfit, and her bosses are icky and crabby. Look at them. But she has the power in this relationship because she's going to ash their food. And what is giving her the power? The Camel cigarette. And you know what's interesting is that if you look up the Centers for Disease Control and tobacco use, the lower you are on the socioeconomic level and the lower your education level, the more likely you are to be a smoker. And so these techniques work really, really well for that specific group, that specific target market. How about housewives? Pepperidge Farm, every taste has a feeling. Okay, that's just creepy. And the ad is messed up because I ripped it I ripped it out of a Jiffy Lube waiting room, which I tend to do. I steal ads. What this is promising her is relaxation, right? But it's even attaching a feeling to the product. Not to mention the fact that we're not supposed to eat emotionally, but here, this is what she's doing, right? It's promising her a bath of chocolate. What appeals would you use to advertise to a mom with school-age kids? Fear. Because if your kids get sick all the time, people are going to blame you. So check out this ad for Lysol. If you're not using Lysol, she could be playing with the virus that causes diarrhea. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So what is this selling? Confidence that your kid's not going to get sick. And it's also using fear. Because if she does get sick, it's your fault. Same thing here with this inhaler. I love the way he's looking at this inhaler. Is your asthma really under control, or do you think it is? Like, come on, no kid cares what brand of inhaler he uses, but the moms do, because if the kid has a problem, the mom is going to get blamed, or she'll blame herself. Okay, so these use fear. Girls in middle school, what are they most afraid of? Not fitting in. And this is a really old ad, but I love it so much. 4 out of 5 girls you hate, ask for it by name. Look at the bottom. Stop hating them. Start being them. Boy, that sums it up, doesn't it? This is selling you belonging. Not to mention the fact that from the neck up, she looks 30, and from the neck down, she looks like a 10-year-old boy. Anyway, how do you sell something to women in their 40s? What are they afraid of? They're afraid of looking old. So here, look, she's even holding the makeup like a syringe. So this is pitched to women in their 40s as an alternative to Botox. Okay. Guys in their 20s, unlike your girlfriend, they never ask where this relationship is going. So typically ads aimed for guys in their 20s are going to be selling control and independence. Liquor is really, really clever the way that it advertises. This is an ad for Jim Beam. You just can't see the bottom of the ad, and I'm sorry. But think about how interesting it is of all the liquor that's named after people. You've got Jim Beam, Jack, Jose, Johnny Walker, Sam Adams, Tito. Gosh, there's a lot. And even Budweiser billboards will say, grab some buds, right? So that you're never drinking alone. You're with your friends, Jim and Jack and Jose. And here, this ad is for a men's magazine in Germany. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was so sexist and misogynist. And yet, what this isn't selling sex necessarily. This is selling control. She's got a controller attached to her. So it's selling this feeling that even though guys in their 20s might not feel like they're in control all the time, this is going to give them that. Oh, and here's an Axe ad based on Tetris, and you can't see the bottom. You can imagine what it looks like. Yeah, okay, you get the idea. What are some things that brides and engaged women are afraid of? They're afraid that the dress that they had to sell a kidney to buy is not going to fit when it comes in. So this is a great ad. It's called, it's for Slim Fast. It says, do you need to lose a little weight before your wedding? And again, the first time I saw this, I thought it was insulting. But the more I thought about it, I thought, this is genius, because what it does is, in a visually simple and clever way, provide the solution to a very common fear. It's great. So common appeals used: fear, humor, guilt, acceptance, blah, blah, blah. And we love to watch commercials during the Super Bowl, and the most common appeal used during the Super Bowl is humor. The ads are tried to be funny. So ads are developed through market research, focus groups, and media buyers. The market research will figure out who the target market is, the demographics, figure out the psychographics of that demographic, and see what kind of campaign would work the best. Then they put the campaign in front of focus groups. Focus groups are groups of people made up of people from the target market. The focus group gives feedback. Maybe they tweak the campaign based on what the focus group says. Then it goes to the media buyers. Now, if I was working in an ad agency, that's totally where I would want to work, because the media buyer gets to spend the client's money placing their ads on various websites, various TV shows, various radio stations, maybe product placement in a movie. Okay, so I think the media buyer would be the funnest job, but that's just me. You're going to hear this a lot. You probably have heard this a lot about how sex is so important when selling products. And I hate this cliche because it doesn't go into enough detail. It sounds so superficial. The reason that it's true is that we, by our biology, are sexual beings. So our sexuality is one thing that crosses every single demographic group, no matter how old you are. If you are a human, you are biologically a sexual being. So that is one way to cut through the clutter of 5,000 ads a day and get people to notice your product. There's also a plain folks pitch, like the Life Alert commercial. Sorry, I couldn't resist using this GIF. Then there's also the Snob Appeal, where you provide a product that is really overpriced to imply that it's higher quality. Like Godiva chocolate, Hershey's chocolate taste the same to me. And I like to pick on Coach bags because, think of it, they're crazy expensive, but they essentially perform the same function as a grocery bag or a Ziploc bag, right? But the appeal is different. The appeal is a sense of accomplishment or wealth. Their utility is not a big deal. The bandwagon effect means that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, but hidden fear is also really popular. You want to attach fear to sell a product and then provide your product as the solution to that fear. So here, like, hang on to your spirit, make a man remember, because clearly if you don't wear this, he'll forget you. Then there's the association principle, and this is a really interesting one. What this does is attach your product to something that the audience already loves. So Campbell Soup does this with the flag, Tommy Hilfiger does this with the flag, Ronald Reagan did this with the flag. You won't see any political commercial that doesn't include the flag, because traditionally as Americans, we love the flag. And as Americans, we also love puppies, we love Clydesdales, and we love our veterans, which means Budweiser is the jackpot of the association principle. Especially their Super Bowl ads, they will wrap up every possible thing about America that we love and put it in a 30-second package. It's genius. We'll talk more about Anheuser-Busch ads when we're in class. So how do you advertise tobacco, alcohol, or things that are bad for you? Well, what's interesting about tobacco ads that you might not know is that 3,000 smokers die every day. So the tobacco industry has to recruit 3,000 new smokers every day. 95% of people who smoke have started before the age of 18. So if you can make it to 18 without smoking, you're probably not ever going to smoke. So if you're a tobacco company, your target market is people under 18 because they haven't committed one way or the other yet. But here you can sell it as an escape. You can sell it as a power tool, independence, and weight loss. Those are the big ways that cigarettes are sold. And you know, they're not called Slims accidentally, okay? It's a weight loss tool. And here, what's so interesting, like Camel even started packaging their cigarettes to look like gum or candy. And some of the giveaways are like lip gloss. Like, they're clearly looking for 15-year-old girls. How do you sell liquor? You just basically promise sex afterwards. I mean, it's that easy. And this one I think is so interesting because what it says is that whoever you are by day, Bacardi is going to change you at night. And if you take this one step further, think about how alcohol does change people. And in some cases, it doesn't change them in a good way, right? Very interesting. So these are some varieties of consumer. And we're going to talk about this in class, like what kind of consumer are you according to these categories? And you will change, like whatever category you decide you're in right now, probably be in a different category 10 years from now. But it's interesting to think, and we'll, like I said, we'll talk about this more in class, but that was the advertising chapter wrapped up in 17 minutes. Woo! All right, see you in class.